No. Oh, okay. There you go. Hey, everybody. Hey, happy 2019. Hope you guys are having a great start to the year. And this is our very first EOS governance study group for this year, and we have a special guest, Daniel Keys from EOS Nation. He's been working hard, all of last year and this year just to get this referendum up. So we're excited to kind of start off the new year strong with this an update on the EOS referendum. And Daniel, feel free to introduce yourself maybe briefly, and then we could get right into the latest on the referendum process. So.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. You nailed it. It's quite a way to start a new year. I think we've got a lot of momentum coming into the new year with this referendum. Now, token holders will have the ability to have a direct say in the shape of the network. And really what this is just a way for us to get a true gauge from the community, from token holders, what their sentiment is. So they can signal to block producers, these are the changes that we want. If you compare that to something like, prior to the referendum, we would get a lot of that sentiment in places like Telegram or Reddit, and often what you get there is the loudest voice rather than the majority of the voices. So with a referendum system that uses your staked tokens to vote, we can on-chain verifiably prove, how many tokens are in favor of whatever's being proposed. And another beautiful thing about it is that anybody can propose whatever they like. There's no gatekeeper in this place. This is not just in our traditional systems. We get to vote on what the people in power present to us to vote on. One of the beautiful things about EOS is it's run completely by the community, and the community can propose whatever they like. But that's not to say it's going to be easy. Putting together a proposal is not something for the faint of heart. It's going to require a lot of work, a lot of rallying of the community to get the support. Because in order for a referendum to pass, we need 15% of tokens to be participating towards a proposal, and you needed 10% more yes than no. So at least 55% of people who are participating need to vote yes for something to pass. So I'm, by the way, I'll take a little step back. For those who haven't, seen me on EOS Ignite in the past, this is my third appearance. So thank you again, June, for having me. I'm the COO and co-founder of EOS Nation. I've been project managing the referendum system. I'm really just a small part of it. This has been a community effort. Many members of the community have been involved. EOS Canada has been instrumental. They are the ones who created the smart contract. And we've got members from all over the community. I would invite you. There's been a Medium. If you look at the EOS Nation Medium, I can post the link in the chat here for those interested. And maybe when you post the video later, you can put it in the description. Goes into a little bit more detail. We've got links there to all the different wallets that are supported. We got credits there, giving credit to everybody who's been helping us. And that's the referendum system. And we are already getting a lot of excitement for the referendum. We're already seeing lots of proposals being posted. The one I saw just posted this morning that I'm pretty excited about is a proposal to ask if the community agrees to put name fees and RAM fees towards REX. And that's something and this is a great example of what it's going to take to get a successful proposal. So I've been kind of, working on this referendum for a while, and the team who's been working on proposing that REX proposal has been working for weeks leading up to the launch of the referendum. They've put together their own little working group. They've been soliciting feedback from the community. They've been, making sure to really craft the language of that proposal in a way that, if someone reads, it's very clear what needs to be done. They have clear instructions for example, what the block producer would need to do in the code to make this thing pass. And that's something that's very important. There's another working group called Ballot Crafters, which I've linked to in that article I shared. They've actually put together kind of a best practice guide that kind of walks you through they did a great job. What they've been doing is studying successful and unsuccessful referenda in kind of the real world, and also being very engaged in what we've been building on EOS. So, they've been inviting people like me and Josh Kaufman from EOS Canada to join their meetings, so that they understand exactly the ip of the system that we built, and to make sure that it, the recommendations that they're making make sense in the context of EOS. So that's if there are folks out there who are interested in proposing things, that's definitely a good place to get started. But like I said, it's bigger than that. You're going to have to put a lot of PR behind it. You're going to have to gather support from the community, and write Medium posts and start attracting people to come vote, because you only have 120 days to reach that threshold.
Wow, yeah, that's fantastic, and and thanks for everybody who's joining in right now, and a lot of great information about the referendum process on the Medium article, and there's a link to another article. Just on that. So 120 days. So you propose something, it has to be voted in 100 days. If not, it just disappears, I guess, or just
yeah. Well, so technically, anyone can set the expiry date for a proposal they submit to whatever they like. But if you read the Constitution, Article 11 in the Constitution explains at least the rules for amending the Constitution. So it doesn't get into making other changes. So, like, for example, a change to REX isn't necessarily an amendment to the Constitution, but we suspect BPs will likely hold everything to the same bar in terms of the rules for changing the Constitution as opposed to anything else. So what it says in the Constitution is you need 15% of vote participation, 10% more yes than no, sustained for 30 days within a 120-day period. So what that basically means is when you post it, 120 days, counter kind of starts, and if within that period you don't reach that 30-day threshold, it's technically, according to the Constitution, it hasn't passed.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, it could keep going, I guess. It's just essentially we'll have to maintain that 30 days within our 30-day kind of
maintain for 30 days within the period of time of 120 days from when it was proposed, basically. So there is that time limit. Doesn't mean someone can't repropose it or propose another version, or but if you are following kind of the letter of the law in the Constitution, which we're who knows what will happen, and maybe we'll see a referendum where it goes 121 days and the BPs will be like, you know what, this is a strong enough signal from the community that they want this. We're not going to, the semantics of the letter of the Constitution. I really don't know. It's really, when it comes down to it, any change is in the authority of 15 out of 21 block producers have to sign an MSIG to make any changes to EOS. So when a referendum passes, it's still up to the BPs to ratify that change. So in some cases, there may be a judgment call to make on their part, especially if it's a proposal that wasn't worded as clearly, or, doesn't provide the exact code necessary to make a change. The top 21 will have to, get together and see, okay, does this look something that's implementable, that's not going to risk the network? Do we have a clear sign from token holders that they want this? And I imagine there might be some gray areas that they'll have to kind of weigh in on. And yeah, I'm excited to see how that plays out. It's kind of one of the beautiful things about delegated proof of stake. It's a fine kind of beautiful, chaotic order, spontaneous order.
Yeah, this is exciting just to see the first proposals come out, and just to see just what people do with it, with the tools. The tools are set up now, and I guess anybody could just propose anything at this point. There's no cost. I assume everyone's going to start doing it, but then realize that, hey, without people knowing about it, it's not gonna do much. Probably
it's not going to go very far. Yeah. There is a small cost, not really. It's no. You have to pay for your RAM. So anyone who's proposing, the proposals are stored in RAM. Off the top of my head, it would depend on kind of the character count of your proposal in terms of how much RAM exactly that consumes. So it's not completely free, but there is no fee in addition to that RAM you would have to pay. That's actually a question or some feedback we've been getting actually quite a bit in the community. You know, people have been noticing that, hey, we're getting tons of proposals, and some of them seem kind of like, you know, jokes or not very well crafted. You know, there are concerns that what if this silly one passes that's not very clear to a BP on what they can do with it. This is something we thought hard about. You know, when we first started working on this about 6 months ago, we were debating, you know, how do we prevent spam? We want to make sure that we don't get into a situation where we get token holder apathy, where, you know, you look at all the proposals and all it's a bunch of spam, and then you stop paying attention. And initially we were thinking, you know, maybe we need to introduce a fee to submit a proposal, something like 1,000 EOS if you really want to propose something, you really got to put some skin in the game, or maybe something smaller. But as we continue to explore the problem and the issues and how delegated proof of stake and all the game theory, we found that the best solution we thought was to keep it as open as possible. We don't think we have, you know, the authority to implement any fees. You know, if you read the Constitution, it doesn't say anything about anything there about a referendum through a portal that charges fees. It just says anyone has the right to vote. So if we build a referendum system with fees, what's to stop someone building an alternative with no fees? So we wanted to keep it as open as possible, and this actually gives the opportunity to the developers who are building their UIs to control the experience like as they like. So, you know, for example, a UI developer could decide, I don't want to subject my users to spam proposals. I'm only going to be showing proposals that I've approved, or maybe I'm only going to show proposals from these particular accounts, or I'm going to put in some filtering system that allows, you know, token holders to choose what they see. We're already seeing lots of different, you know, there are already dozens of UIs out there, and they're all handling the filtering a little bit different, which is exactly what we were expecting. And I assume over time, kind of norms will form. The best approach will gather the most, you know, the most people, and kind of through those free market mechanisms, the kind of the best system will hopefully come forward.
That's great. So Maud has a question here. What happens if opposing proposals pass? Is his question.
Yeah. So that goes back to that. We may see some interesting gray areas that block producers are going to have to weigh in on. There are no rules that explicitly state in the Constitution how do you deal with a situation where there are opposing things that pass. So I suspect block producers, if we enter a place like that, block producers will probably looking at things like which one passed first. I don't know if that factors in, which one had more support, which one had more yes than no. There are all kinds of different things that could come into play. I suspect it would come down to kind of like the which one has clearly the greater support. But, you know, we're yet to see that happen and what will happen. And another thing I wouldn't be surprised to happen is perhaps at some point, somebody in the community will propose a more formal referendum process. You know, so currently we don't have, again, the Constitution is very vague. There are no rules that kind of outline these, you know, how do we handle these situations? But someone could kind of say, hey, you know, we see this gap. We see there's some opportunities for, you know, these gray areas that we want to solve. Let's propose some rules, post it as a proposal through referenda. The community can vote on these rules. And now we have kind of the consent of the token holders to say, yep, these are rules that make sense to us. And you know, going forward, we'll abide by these rules to make changes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And so just a quick thing, we could bring people in if people have maybe more than one or question and want to be on video and have their webcams, just let me know, and I can bring you guys in. So Marcin, Ville, Shaw, yeah, we got matching jackets, so that's cool, right? Yeah, so I gotta
EOS Bros.
I gotta move in my seat. All right, so we're kind of like, no, you're still higher than I am. That's cool.
Oh,
So, So yeah, let me know if everyone out there wants to come in. Just this will be it'll be great to have you. And I know Ville was a regular and Shaw as well. So Marcin, um, yeah, yeah. I want to know about V2. Where's the version 2 proposal? I figure Marcin.
I saw it looks like there's a working group looking at V2 as well.
Okay.
I haven't seen any proposal from them yet, but it looks like there's people working on that. I know that the Alliance has been working for a long time on multiple constitution they want to put forward. Hey there.
Hello.
So yeah, Ville has been a regular with our group, and it was funny. He actually messaged me about a proposal. Wanted some quick feedback on some wording, but so I'm kind of curious, Ville, which wallet did you use, or which proposal system did you use, and what was your experience, I guess?
It was quite straightforward. I used EOS X because nowadays I'm also involved with Telos. So .io supports both of the chains plus BOSS. So I used their tool to create a proposal. It wasn't a constitution change because it's purely about REX. So it will expire in 1 month because it's not a constitution amendment. So it doesn't need to be the 120 days. And I can link it here. Of course, I think that, well, this is up to June, but I think that we should be quite apolitical without politics in terms of bias. Of course, everything we discuss is about politics and law and philosophy, but I mean that probably this shouldn't be a venue of personal political gain. But just for this time, I will link.
You gotta promote it, Ville. You gotta get the word out. Otherwise, hey, that's maybe not that's not the aspects. I mean, that's not the only aspect of politics. I mean, but it is like marketing and all. Just awareness is part of it. So I don't know. You could say it's not politics, but then there is some element of that that you need, I think. So, but yeah, we'll check it out. So EOS X.io, and we see the referendum right there.
I just posted your competitor.
Yeah, indeed. The big difference is that my proposal includes inflation, and this competitor doesn't. So.
Oh wow, there's a lot of politics going on already.
and also my approach is a bit rogue here because I copied this approach from governments. When there's a law change, at least Finnish parliament votes on the spirit of the law change, and then if they accept it, there will be technical implementation. I'm not sure is the technical implementation voted afterwards, because in Finland we don't see that in the news. We just see the in principle decision on the law. For example, same is in EU. The Article 13 of the current EU copyright law is the EU Parliament voted for it, but it's not a proper law yet. They will now work on the technical details, and then it will be implemented in the future. But for now, Article 13 of EU copyright law is considered to be approved still. So I copied this approach and made my proposal as simple as possible and to reflect the will of the people and the will of the citizens of EOS. So the technical implementation is quite irrelevant. I'm a smart contract developer, but I still think that the technical implementation itself is quite irrelevant. because there can be changes in the code. For example, I worry that if the Rex code updates or there are changes in the Rex code, for example, if they would change the variable which is defining the fees, I will copy it from the EOS Nation. There is the variable proposal that you need to set, and problem is that if there is a code change now, because during these 4 months there can be changes in the Rex code, so the BPs would need to apply it differently anyway if there will be a change in the code. That's why I didn't want to include code changes to my proposal.
Yeah, Daniel, that's a good question. So code can change often, and you have a proposal, and maybe people vet it and it looks good, and all of a sudden you need to tweak a couple variables here and there. Well, how do you see this happening? Like what's your kind of, how do you envision this process happening?
My guess is probably as good as yours. Okay. I've seen both sides, so you make some good points. I've seen this kind of both sides of this debated. It's something actually we talked quite a bit about in the ballot craft working group. They were looking into whether it was possible to do things like 2-part questions, for example, where part 1 is to gauge the intent, and then part 2 is to get more into the actual implementation. And what they kind of came to was, so another cool feature of this referendum system and the smart contract that EOS Canada created mainly is it's actually, that contract is more than a referendum contract. It's a forum contract. Referendum proposals are one of the features within it. Another feature that is available is polling. So something that I've seen recommended in this process leading up to you proposing something, there's a big community outreach and crafting period where you can put forward non-binding polls to help gauge the sentiment of the community and help direct how you will kind of make the implementation. That being said, I don't know what the right answer is, and I'm excited to see. Now we have 2 examples. Yours doing one way and the other one doing the other way. And now we can see, which one is successful, which one token holders place their votes towards. And that's, I think, how this is going to evolve. It's now it's in the hands of the community. We've built this system to be very open, very minimal kind of guidelines around it. We have some best practices, but beyond that, the community is going to really truly craft the process and the outcome of these.
Is there so I like the poll feature. I didn't realize. So so that's great. I'm assuming there's something out there, and I'm hoping the wallet providers also are, because they would have to implement it in each of their wallets, right?
That's right. Not all of the wallets have that feature working. I know one that for sure is EOS Authority.
Okay.
I think they were the first and I think instrumental in getting that feature created. They worked very closely with EOS Canada to kind of work through the details and how they can make the polling with multiple options work well. So yeah, hats off to EOS Authority to helping with that feature.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll just work with them. I mean, I think there's a very important question, right? Is base layer arbitration, and so I'll work with EOS Authority. I'll ping him today and try to get work with the polling feature that they have, which is fantastic, and I could kind of promote them and also try to really identify this very important question and probably a controversial issue. So.
Oh yeah, Rohan is your man for polling, I think.
Okay, awesome. So
and I agree with Daniel that in the future, making a proposal will be huge effort. There will be different kind of polls and a large group and so on. So this is kind of a corner case that one hippie from a Finnish small town creates just a couple of sentences and then post, and then let's see what happens. So I think that in 3 months, 6 months, this will be really different field.
Yeah, so it'll be great. Like maybe the next week we'll just look at all the proposals, whether whatever people put out there. Maybe even the jokes that we'll just kind of see what's out there and dig in and see all the various wallets and yeah, and start. I think there's the constitutions are probably going to be the biggest. I guess up for vote.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
So yeah, excited really. So. So what other questions do you guys have? Okay, Marcin is struggling with his mic. And if you get that working, it'd be great to have you, Marcin.
In the meantime, I could provide a little more details. Something that I think is important that I haven't mentioned yet is that we do support proxies. So if you currently have your stake delegated to a proxy, if that proxy votes for a referenda, your stake will count towards that. But you do have the ability to override your proxy's votes. So all you need to do is vote on a proposal yourself, and it will override your whatever proxy's decision was on that for your stake.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach.
It
gives you both. It gives you the trust to you can trust someone else, and then you can, in the end, you can always.
That's right. You retain your control still.
Yeah, that's a great design, and I think proxies are going to be the trend. I think it's most people are going to want to delegate their voting to people they trust, and I think
I think so too.
And so yeah, I think the proxy kind of market is going to flourish. I think.
Especially over time, like right now, the EOS community is made up with a bunch of enthusiasts, right? Like people who are diehard. I love EOS. Over time, EOS is probably going to become more and more of a utility for enterprises to build scalable applications on. And, they're not going to be necessarily in the weeds of everything. They're going to want to be able to delegate their voting power to those of us who are really in the weeds.
So Shaw asked, have any of the big proxies voted on referenda yet? And Marcin says, yes, they have. So these
I've seen Investing with a Difference voting. That's one I've noticed. Yeah. Oh yeah. Titan. That's another one I noticed. I think on the delete ECAF proposal.
Okay.
Which is, last I checked, that seems to be the most popular one.
Oh wow. Yeah. So Shintai says they won't be voting on referendum. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's interesting because well, I guess it could get political, I guess. So.
Yeah, and it kind of Shintai is kind of like a temporary stake. Like when you're leasing your tokens, I haven't been discussing with them their line of thinking for not staking, but I'm just speculating here. But I can kind of see that making sense, given that it's like a temporary stake, and you have to maintain a referendum for that 30-day threshold.
Oh, I see.
But that wouldn't preclude you from being able to, because it's the way that it works is basically it's constant snapshots. So let's say I vote today, and tomorrow I change the weight of I change my stake. Let's say I unstake half of my tokens tomorrow. My vote is still valid. It just now half is strong. We're just constantly looking at which proposal did you vote for, what was your choice, and how much EOS do you currently have staked at this time, and then you add up all of the stakes of everybody voting for that, and that's your voting weight.
All right.
It looks like Marcin's mic's back.
All right, so I'll invite him. But and Daniel, maybe there's a question about from John C. Do all passing referendum require block producers maintain 15 of 21 approval of the new code for 30 consecutive days, as per technical white paper?
Do all proposals require 15 out of 21 to approve? That's yes. So yeah, the way that delegated proof of stake works is any changes you make to the network require the top 21 BPs to do a 15 out of 21 MSIG approval to deploy that change. So there's no mechanism in place with the referendum that overrides that automatically unlocks a change when a certain threshold is passed. It still requires, again, it's basically a signal to the block producers. This is the intent of token holders. And if block producers fail to enact that intent, it's really up to token holders to vote them out. That's kind of the checks and balances that we have in place in EOS.
And I think the other part of it is, which makes sense, do they have to approve the code like 30 consecutive days, I guess? Because
there's no that 30 consecutive days applies to the referendum polling. So it's you need to have that support of the 10%, and that 10% more yes than no sustained for 30 days.
Hey.
There's nothing written in there about how long after the block producers have to implement it, or and there's nothing prescriptive like that.
Also,
welcome, Marcin.
Hey guys, hey, good to see you.
Dzień dobry, jak się masz?
Dzień dobry. That's pretty good, man. I've been practicing.
My mom's Polish,
right,
so
yeah, that explains it.
Some practice.
And the time limit of 120 days applies only for constitution amendments per the constitution itself. The constitution doesn't describe any other process than the amendments.
Okay. So
I see a question: who made this 15 out of 21 decision change? There was no decision. That is that's just the nature of EOS. That's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
2/3.
So yeah, I'm late to the party here a little bit, but just wanted to congratulate the whole movement and the EOS community, because I think what we achieved is unprecedented, and it's not just about EOS, but in general. I think this model of decision making, that might be a blueprint for some serious change in the way that that some societies are governed, actually. Because I don't want to get too lofty here, but these experiments are actually the first ones that ever happened on this planet at such scale. So I think these conversations that we might be having here, like Ville said, some hippie proposed something somewhere, and then it went big and stuff. This is really a groundbreaking moment for us, and we also we've been sort of promised this at the very beginning when EOS was launching by Block One, that there will be a referendum contract and stuff like that. And so everybody was just so hyper busy that they couldn't have delivered that on time. But this shows the might of the community, actually, what has happened here. And now we're going to have to learn to draft the proposals properly, which is the next step, you guys were just talking. And this, I am so excited about this. I literally, when I saw actually the number one proposal, which is the delete ECAF, everybody thinks that we did that personally because we were probably the strongest campaigners for that, but it's not the case. Actually, someone else did it from the FreeOS group, and I don't even know who that was. But now seeing this movement in motion is really, really unbelievable. So congratulations, everyone. Literally, I think we owe ourselves a huge round of applause for this united, beautiful effort.
A virtual clap for everybody working
and an actual one.
Yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head. We're kind of all learning as we go. This has never been done anywhere before. We're kind of figuring it out. We're fumbling around. We're going to make mistakes. But that's the beautiful thing about EOS is it's possible to evolve, and we can try things out, and if they don't work, try again, and keep going till we get it right.
Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable, really. I think that we're writing history here. So
yeah.
see where it takes us. Yeah, I only have like a few minutes to talk to you guys because I'm like in the middle of some pretty hectic stuff, but I wanted to express this because it was really sort of important.
Thank you. It's always nice to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks for dropping in. And any questions? We have Daniel here, so you know, any other, like, we know we could get some insights on it. I'm just, things are kind of going in my head. I'm just trying to figure out, like what you know, proposals are going to be good to get out there first. And I'm actually probably going to, you know, I'm curious to see what's already out there. So Daniel, you said you might also, maybe eventually later on, you can kind of go through maybe one of the proposal tools, one of the wallets you're saying, maybe.
I could, yeah, sure.
We could save that for later. Maybe we could save that to the end. But I was just curious about that. So
yeah, there are many to choose from, and yeah, I'd be happy to kind of go through a demo if that's what your community would like to see.
Okay, so yeah. Hey, so Steve, if you want to get in, hop in a little later, we can actually just grab you in from the this crowdcast. So we have a limit of 4 people. So whenever, I guess, if you want to get on, we can get you on if you want to say a few words. So
Steve's been helping us out from the beginning. He helped us design he was really instrumental in designing EOSvotes.io and coming up with the concept of making it like an education first platform. Since this is new to everybody, you know, it's good to have that kind of a one non-branded educational hub where people can go and check out proposals, learn more about them, and vote. So that's a great, EOSvotes.io is a great source for kind of education and info. Since starting that, like, you know, that was the original portal. When we started working on building this referendum system, that was the only portal available. It was kind of our proof of concept. And I'm really amazed. I'm surprised to see how quickly, like now there are dozens to choose from. So it's pretty exciting to see all the support we're getting from all the other developers out there.
So Perry has a question here as well. It says, what discussion debate occurred around how to handle choke point attack vector of voting providers having the ability to filter proposals? So Daniel, do you want to take a shot at that?
Say that again.
I guess relying on voting providers might be a point of control, maybe, or he considers it a choke point or attack vector.
Voting on
voting providers having the ability
on voting. There's no voting for voting providers. It's anybody can create a wallet or a portal or a tool. There's nothing stopping from anyone to create whatever portal and however they like.
So Ville asks a question. Yeah, we should post this on Twitter. Actually, I should have done that. But you know, I like the filter where, I mean, essentially, if I were to create a wallet, it would be a filter on just like a stake, right? So someone's got to stake a certain amount before it gets seen, right? So you got to get people at least like you know, 1,000 EOS tokens worth of stake to you know, to get it visible, and that's already tough to do. I mean, you know, so that already is a filter right there. That's should prevent like spam, essentially, right? So anyways, just doing it based on stake, a filter based on stake is very like easy, I think, and it's neutral too. It should be easy to get, and it should prevent enough spam to make it usable. So
I think maybe Perry is asking, is there any way to prevent like the voting websites from simply not putting out some of the proposals? I think this is how I understand this question. I don't know if that's correct. So suppose there is 20 proposals up in the air, we just show 3 and pretend that that is all. I think like the answer I see to this is that it would be very easy to prove that that is a legitimate website by by just simply advocating for the best known ones that have the greatest trust. And there you can see that there is very many more proposals. So if somebody's just shoving 1 or 2 in people's faces, that it can easily be proven that that is a bit of a player there. But it probably doesn't prevent that altogether. What you were saying, I think you wanted to also to answer that.
No, you pretty much hit it on the head there. That there's again already dozens. If there are certain portals out there that are behaving badly, I suspect they're going to lose users because users don't like using platforms that are malicious. And in a open world like this where we're able to communicate so quickly and broadly, I don't think it would take long for a malicious UI that's trying to, I guess, mislead voters. I think it'll be exposed fairly quickly. So that's not something I'm terribly concerned about. And you also always have the opportunity, although this is a barrier to people without technical abilities, you can always actually from your command line go right into the blockchain and see what's there. You don't even have to rely on any of the UIs.
Yeah, and then what remains to be seen is how far marketing can go. For example, this is not personal or anything, but because there's so juicy situation between my proposal and your proposal, and what if, for example, EOS Cafe, who is affiliated with this proposal, puts it on top of their Blocks.io, for example. Of course, it's not going to happen. Blocks.io is well behaving and big part of this community, but this is just like throwing an idea out that how far marketing can go, because I wouldn't say it would be malicious. I would call it marketing, but it wouldn't be fair to my proposal because I don't have a block explorer myself.
Right. So that's actually something that's explained in the Ballotcraft guide. Is although you perhaps don't have a wallet or a block explorer of your own, one opportunity that is out there is, again, if you do gain that support from the community and you have the proposal here that looks like it's good and people will stand behind it, you can start engaging with the developers of various block explorers and platforms and have them kind of promote it within their platform. You can kind of take that opportunity and say, hey, this is a good one. We should really be pushing this through the community. We need to get that 15%. We need to get everybody on board. So there's a kind of an engagement process to go through, talking to all the developers. And if you can get them on board to feature your proposal, it has more success of succeeding.
Oh yeah. And then it also makes sense in the future when this will be a huge project to have a proposal. A lot of preparation, a lot of crafting different things, a lot of polls, a lot of people, and probably a lot of money in the future. Because after all, I don't see why we would be so different from traditional politics. So yeah, I think that it would make sense in the future that marketing can be really widespread in terms of coverage and instrument.
So Marcin has a comment. Maybe we'll just read that. So another thing, campaigning for just 2 to 3 proposals on your voting websites is not something that actually warps the space, as there's always a yes and no. It makes your voting websites more of a political campaigner than a full proposal register. So,
yeah, I think we're going to see different approaches come from different UIs. And yeah, I'm excited to see which one wins. What's the model that works best?
Do you think, this is a side note, like are BPs going to be campaigning, do you think, a lot for one? Are they going to remain neutral? Like what?
I suspect they will. I'm already seeing they're involved in crafting, this Rex one. I know there were a number of BPs, including EOS Nation, involved in getting that Rex proposal crafted. And then part of that, block producers have a very large network, so they can gather support and get their network to start voting on these things. So I suspect we'll probably see some of that for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and that's they are the natural centers of influence. So it seems
that's right. And they have kind of that mandate from they've been elected. They're the only body with all of EOS that's been actually elected by token holders. So they've already got community support. They're in it every day. They are familiar with the code. They're familiar with the problems. So they're in a really good position to understand the problem and how to craft a solution that can be executed by block producers.
I agree also that the position is natural, so there is nothing wrong with it. It's just a lot of work and a lot of work well done with the top VPs of EOS. So yeah, it's just one of the perks when you do your BB stuff wrong.
Yeah, and then I think the flip side of that is I think there might be some sentiment for like political neutrality and just focusing on block production. I think also because maybe block producers don't want to be seen as having too much power, right? Because then it may seem like there's less. I guess it's more of a risk to the network when some entity has too much power, possibly. I don't know. I think that might be at least a counterpoint to the idea that it's going to be very political on the BP side. So, so I can add Steve here as so yeah. So I think this is great. Any other? Maybe in the last few minutes, you can go through a demo, Daniel. But hey, how's it going, Steve?
Hey, Steve.
Welcome from Oslo.
Happy 2019.
You say you're in Oslo? Nice.
Okay, wow.
Oslo right now, going to London Tuesday.
You dress like you're in Oslo.
It's very cold here.
Yeah. So.
It's very, very cold. So I just wanted to say a few things on the what y'all guys were just talking about. First of all, I am very afraid that we are going to ECAF the shit out of this if we don't watch it. And what I mean by that is the language that we use. Like, I'm a UX guy, so I pay attention to how people interpret information. Really my trade. And although I might be opinionated when it comes to my deliverables, when it comes to things that I actually create, I put a lot of focus on that. But just in conversation, I can be very frank and direct and challenge a lot of people when they interpret. They do in social psychology what's called a fundamental attribution error. They attribute me talking about contentious things as being bad rather than the thing I'm talking about. And I want to really highlight this because it's rampant in our community. And I think that if we're going to make this successful, that we need to really pay attention to the Annas and to the people in the community who are telling us they're the canary in the coal mine. They're telling us, guys, this doesn't make sense. Or guys, and we're technical people by trade, a lot of us. So we're like, well, whatever, get with it. But that's the wrong way to think about this, because if we want mass adoption, I think that we need to take a step back and we use language like ballot crafting and expectations of this really complex language that most people just don't understand what the hell it is. And if you went and asked the average person at like the mall or down the street or a buddy, and you showed them that, for example, and I'm just using, I think that definitions are good. I'm not hating or downplaying the efforts of the ballot crafting group. But when you show them like 30 points that they have to go through, and it sounds like a political fiasco, you know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? Is this like we need to simplify that stuff. And that's all I've been trying to say like the last week internally and to other people, is that for people who are very serious about referendum, I think that it is important to do that so we don't get a lot of garbage. But at the same time, we need to look at the language. And that's really all I wanted to chime in on. And I think that that's we're very early on in this cycle, and it's very exciting. But the graphics that are being created, and what happened with this whole campaign that was just put out, everybody's logo was on it. And that creates there were more logos than there were substance. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I was speaking out about in the very, very beginning of this 6 or 7 months ago. I mean, I think I was actually one of the very first posts ever about referendum back in EOS forums, EOS Go forums that was deleted, I think about a month ago or so. And where we're at now is like really exciting, because people are actually thinking about all these problems that could emerge. But the number one problem, in my opinion, is just the language and way we engage with the larger token holder community. Like, this stuff turns them off, man. When you have this really intense political language and all these processes, and you don't distill and simplify, it makes them not want to engage. They're like, oh, I can't do that. You know what I mean?
So the ballot craft is just a
I understand. I totally understand what it's
come up with their own best practices.
But again, this goes back to what happens in these communities is people look at the people leading it, and that just doesn't happen. There may be a few other takes on it, but that's going to be pushed down the throats as the way, because there's people have a vested interest in it. They have their thought leadership tied up in it, and they have their commercial interests. In the case of Strong Block, good example, that they pretty much consult with governance, so it benefits them, to be the people leading that narrative. Now, people don't have to adopt it, just like you've been saying the whole time. And for Daniel's credit, he's been saying that the whole way back since like 3 or 4 months ago. We came to the realization that we need to have less rules and just let people do what they want and let DPoS do its thing. You know what I mean? That's the realization we came to. Even I believe the biggest credits for this whole thing definitely need to go to EOS Canada, and particularly Josh and I always forget how could I forget his name?
Alexandre.
Yeah, sorry. I did the
Mathieu, he was big on it too. Yeah. All three of them.
But at the beginning, it was like, we need to have rules, we need to have standards. It's going to cause problems. By the end of it, straight up, Alexandre was like,
it was an evolution.
We need to have less rules and just let people do their thing. And it could be an indicator of what people want, even if we can't implement it. You know what I mean?
So yeah, the Black Clafters aren't creating any rules. It's a random group of people who have formed, who decided we're going to put a bunch of effort into studying how referendums work, and we're putting a guide together. People can use it if they choose to.
Right.
I think I see you as a leader in this community too, Steve, and I think there's nothing stopping you to coming up with an alternative, which you have. And I think that's great.
And I'm trying to spark this argument. I'm not saying they are. You see what happens, Daniel. You totally see this happen, where someone puts out, hey, this is our way of doing it, and it kind of like becomes the perceived way, right? Unintentionally, because if you have the top thought leaders in the space pushing it.
But what's to stop your way from becoming the perceived way?
I mean, I think a lot of different approaches would be great.
It's the one that gathers the most, the one that resonates most with token holders is the one that will become the way that is used.
I wish it worked that way, but it often is whoever has the loudest voice and whoever has the perceived trust in this community.
Your voice is pretty loud, Steve. I don't think you have to worry about that.
I don't even know that I want to be the one to initiate that, because that's a lot of responsibility too. I'm just pointing it out.
Agreed.
I'm just pointing it out. I'm just trying to say it up front. Let's not gaff the shit out of this. Let's try to simplify it and make it easy to digest, and certainly have multiple ways. And even the people who are leading that to be proactively questioning it. Say, are we overcomplicating this? can we simplify this? Because that first draft, although very impressive, I'm not detracting from the ballot crafters group. Like, that is a awesome effort. Like, you know, badass, straight up, and it very concise. It defines language, process, like, awesome. I'm just pointing it out. That other side of it is all I'm trying to do, and just spark that debate. That's why I wanted to chime in. It's all I really wanted to say is just think about it, because we're really early on in this. And maybe Nation does one that distills it and tries to define things simply. Maybe we do something. Maybe there's 5 or 6 groups that do something, and then out of that, we see what actually happens in referendum and what works. And we start defining that, you know, over time, over this year, we start to go, okay, that was a bad idea. People aren't understanding this, or this was great. And we kind of come to a consensus. The great thing about DPOS on what that looks like, but just this time around, let's not overcomplicate it, is all I'm trying to say. We have a habit of that in the EOS community. You guys got to admit. You know what I mean?
But I think we did a great job of making it dead simple to vote.
Right.
And purposely, it's not supposed to be easy to propose. You know, proposing is
I understand.
I'm saying it's an endeavor, and you have to understand the problems so, you know, we don't have a spam filter, but you got to put the work in.
And I think that could be largely like, you know, a UI is like, is it bad for a website to filter out Viagra comments? People are like, who's to keep them from censoring the tally or censoring through the UIs? Well, one, as Dennis from Nation had suggested from the very beginning, we need to have multiple tally systems. I believe there's one from Titan that's doing one right now. They're completely different.
Theirs is live. It's great. Right. Yeah, they got their own tally system.
So, you know, you can come to a consensus on like, okay, well, no one's filtering anything. This is what's on chain. But I just think that we just need to watch overcomplicating it. You know what I mean? But someone just filtering out spam in their UI, I think, is acceptable if it's just a garbage proposal. If it's if it's just has no value, or it's even malicious or negative or something, they can choose to do that. But you can certainly still go search that on chain and it'll still be there. But I think that's the UIs do have the right, if they're trying to create an experience for people. People like are worried about that. I hear a lot of concern about people filtering out proposals. And I think if it's absolutely an empty proposal and it doesn't mean anything, then I think the UIs can have the right to do that. Are you guys doing that on, because I don't have access to the back end, is that being done on EOS Votes? Are y'all like selectively showing proposals, or does it just load everything?
EOS Votes is showing everything in order of the most, highest vote, tokens voted towards it are top.
Nothing's being
dead simple.
Yeah.
Nothing's being filtered. Okay. The other wallets, Titan's got a great filtering system. I've noticed on there. Seems to be the most comprehensive in terms of ways you can filter. They put all of the power in the hands of the users to decide how they want to filter.
That's a cool approach.
So that's pretty cool.
That is a cool approach. That's something that maybe the other UIs should take notice of, and maybe that's the way that we go. Just say, hey, you choose what you want to see. If you want to see everything, It's your choice. So, anyways, that's all I really had to say. Sorry to the conversation.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for your insight.
Yeah, and about the language itself, I can share a real-world example from Finland. We discussed this with June like a few weeks ago here, but in Finland we have this kind of proposal systems. We don't really use referendums in our government citizen interaction, but we use proposals. So everyone can set up a proposal online, and then if it gains 50,000 signatures, mostly electric, but it can be whatever signature. When it gains 50,000 signatures, then it will be passed to the parliament to vote on. And this leads to very interesting the free form of the proposal, because although we are not US in terms of freedom, we still have we are free, but not in US way. We have still all kinds of rules and formats and forums and whatever. But we still have free form proposals, so no one is going to intervene with your proposal. So you have a proposal which have been crafted by Greenpeace lawyers about nature, and then you have like two sentences from some xenophobic, angry Finnish guy saying, "All immigrants out, enter," and it's in the end always, or well, almost always, the proposals which are very well crafted survive. So the Greenpeace one, which is crafted by their lawyers and things like that, those will survive. But there is the middle ground where there is some like prose, long prose, which is not legal or codified, but still it will survive. So the real case example proves here in Finland that there is incentive to use complicated prose and sometimes legally codified. So this kind of hippies from small towns in Finland don't get much signatures. So I think it's kind of natural way to improve.
I mean, there's two sides of that argument. One, having that barrier, like many have said, is part of the process, and that weeds out the chaff. And then there's other people that are like, well, what if there is a proposal that happens organically by someone who is not that knowledgeable, but that has a lot of teeth and could be a good indicator for change? So I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't claim to know, and I don't think any of us know. I'm just trying to bring up, like, let's not jump too far on one side or the other. And I didn't mean to frame it as it for anyone who was like, I don't agree with the ballot crafting group. I'm just saying those are some authoritative people. Those are some of the top minds in the space on these topics, and people are going to gravitate towards their approach, and then that becomes kind of de facto the way. And since we're so early on, I'm urging other people to push some other ways, just like you said, Daniel. Come up with a more simplified version, like distill what they did into, like, you know, the 101 guide of, you know, of ballot crafting, or don't even call it ballot crafting, you know, proposal, just something that's a little more simplified for someone just getting into it, but that may have some great ideas. I don't want those voices to get snuffed out because it's just too complicated. They just glaze over and go, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. The idea is to give a voice to all token holders. So yeah, absolutely. The more ways we can engage them, I think the better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah, so that's great. Hopefully someone kind of takes the lead on that. So we got about 8 minutes. I got to do something at 12:30. So, but yeah, so any kind of last questions for any of us? Daniel, maybe we could do a demo next week. What do you guys want to do next week? We'll do something. I might be away on Thursday, but let's say just next week, sometime either Thursday or maybe even Saturday. I don't know but
I'm pretty flexible. Happy to jump on again anytime.
So I think, yeah, the momentum is probably going to start building. I think some of the, maybe we can chat about some of the specific proposals as well, but maybe it'll take some time for everyone to get used to. Again, just so we got to repeat like this kind of this kind of content.
And it's still early. Well, by next week maybe we'll see new proposals. We'll see some more action on the ones that have been already proposed. I think we're only 2 days in now, so it's
more videos. All of you out there, every single one of you, other people looking at this later, make some explainer videos. Any type of video content specifically on this that kind of goes into like what it is, like how it works, or just from a human level, that amplifies the whole thing, and it really would help this process. So a call to action to the community right here, right now. You heard it first. Make some videos, everybody. Yeah. Shaheen, I see you in there. You guys at EOSSF, like Nation, make some more videos.
Yeah,
everybody.
Hey, Shaw did a good job on this Rex video. You do short, real clean. Shaw's a really good presenter, so I'm expecting one from you, Shaw. But yeah, I mean, any other final questions? We got a few minutes. I think I'm gonna kind of stop at 12:15 on Pacific, so we got 7 minutes or so. Haley, Yeah, Haley's out there. EOS Cafe. Hopefully everything's going well there. What are you guys excited about? Like what in terms of proposals? Like I know Rex is a really popular.
And actually, Sharif originally, I think a lot of people attribute that to Kevin, but Sharif was actually the person who originally pointed it out. That said, guys, Rex is a no-brainer. Nobody is going to vote and get through under the current what it takes to get a referendum, passed. The only thing that he thought would work is just to straight up tell people, do you want free money?
Right. I can't.
You know what I mean?
It seems like a pretty no-brainer one.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm excited about what kind of turnout there's going to be after Rex.
Right. And there's a lot that it's not besides the free money. We get to see, is this going to impact voter participation? Now people that have an incentive to stake their tokens, get them working, get them voting. It could actually drive changes to the participation quite drastically, which will be interesting to see.
Yeah. That's the exciting part. Because with the cost of voting, there's always it's hard. I mean, if there's a cost to it, then you almost have to compensate for that, or reward people for doing it. So now it balances it out. So.
Maybe that's the campaign that we all as a community come together on, is just to push the Rex proposal through, because that if it could get passed, that is a big moment for the community.
Yeah.
It says that this system that we all came together and did works.
Yeah.
And everybody likes free money. I don't know that the other proposals, I've looked at all of them. I just don't see that amount of engagement happening if there's no benefit.
Yeah.
But once it works, I could see other issues getting, being more of a possibility once that's validated. So I don't know. We'll see. But I definitely think if there's one singular campaign that we all come together on, Rex is the no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
And EOS Nation is already, we're fully on board Rex. We plan to put all of our marketing behind it. We already have a whole bunch of marketing ready. Marcin from our team has been working hard coordinating a campaign specifically for, getting this first. Let's get everybody on board. One proposal we can all rally behind. Let's start off the new year right with passing something through referendum. I don't know if we've started seeing any of the materials go out yet, but it should be now that the proposal has been posted. You should start seeing a lot more marketing coming out of not just Nation, but a whole bunch of other BPs and community members who have been involved in rallying around this.
Yeah, we just put out the how referendum system works infographic, and we have a series of stuff that we're going to put out over the next month, for probably Rex and just more detail about why the referendum is important in general. So, and I advise everybody to do that. But video content, man, as much as you can do. That's what people consume. Look at the metrics.
Yeah.
Everybody just watch video, or maybe a cool graphic. But if it's really detailed, it tends to just be a pretty small group who's really invested in it or needs to know about it, like BP groups. And then we're just talking to ourselves. You know what I mean? So videos, as much videos as we can.
Yeah, I agree. So Marcin says, I think it's important to make people realize they can influence and shape EOS and steer it to become better through voting. Incentivizing voting for just for the sake of voting seems futile to me. Okay, so there's an opposing opinion on Rex. So maybe so that's kind of interesting. I think there's partly that part of it too, just to try to sell the idea that they can change the direction of EOS. So there is a benefit there, but I do think economically you also want to balance the cost of it too. So.
It's a fair point though. You don't want people just blindly voting for the top at they got a list of 30 BPs at the top of the list. Just check because that's at the top. It's easier. Now I'm eligible for Rex. Hopefully, what we see is people. Okay, now I have an incentive to vote. Maybe I'll invest a little bit of time into thinking through what I'm voting for since I'm already here voting, or maybe I'll proxy my vote. Hopefully what we don't see is, and I think the fact that we've got people, in order to vote, you got to put you're putting skin in the game, right? So hopefully we don't just see blind voting for the sake of Rex rewards. If you're thinking more long-term, you're thinking, well, I've got skin in the game. I want to protect my investment. I want to make sure that we're making the right decisions for this network.
Yeah, I think it'll get people out of the woodwork, really, hopefully. And then, once they're in it, then they'll naturally get more engaged. But I think some people are just on the sidelines because it's just, you need a little extra to motivate people to do things. And then once they're in it, then it's kind of an easy next step to think about their vote a little bit more. So
that's right. It's a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
This is also new, like blockchain, crypto itself as a community, and the technology is so early still and these concepts are literally just being invented and just happening. So it's going at it with that mindset and understanding that like each step of the way we may have to spoon feed people and educate them about what every little detail is, when all of us are thinking that way. And thinking about not just the EOS token holder, but people just coming into crypto. You know what I mean? That will, I think, make ours one of the most accessible communities in blockchain, in the whole ecosystem, because we've taken the time to not only make our own system work, but to explain to people why it's important. And Rex, like, that's such an easy sell. Like, you don't have to, hey, do you want free money? I can't think of another proposal we might even say that, well, I don't know if that's going to be completely legal, but I have to check with a lawyer.
Well, my proposal does differ in two ways from the proposal that you were talking about. First is that my proposal adds inflation, and second is that it will cover the existing system funds also. So as a BP, because I'm not BB on EOS, I don't have a stash to protect. I can easily be hippie here and all the system money to the people.
Okay, cool. So check out Ville's proposal. But last words, guys. We gotta wrap up here. So
truth, love, and freedom.
All right.
Cool. And Daniel, good luck with your votes from your competitor.
Thank you. You too. I'm really interested to see how this pans out.
All right. Yeah. Wherever everyone is, who are you gonna vote for? Like, I don't know where everyone is.
I just want to say to the community, I think a lot of people still think that I'm a BP when they see me pop up. I'm no longer part of BP operation. I am a completely independent operation now with Bitgate and the BitSpace network, and all. That's why I'm in Oslo. And I also just recently started Fractal. That's basically an incubator. So I'm still here. I told you guys I wouldn't leave you. I'm still active in the community. I'm not receiving any rewards. All the work that I do is just because I love.
I'm glad you're still around.
Yeah, that's
raising hell.
Someone's got to do it.
I don't like it now because I'm not restrained now. I like just say what I mean, and people are like, oh,
all right, guys.
Maybe that's
all right. See you guys, Shaheen, Haley, John C, Marcin, all you guys. Take care.
Love you.